I've been on the Baki board for 16 years, the chairman of the board for the last 11 years. And as Matt said, we have graduates from over 100 different countries. And I think they're all doing great work. So, in the hotel world, I've been involved in the consummation of over 300 transactions. So what I do is I kind of build up the companies, whether I buy it or we build them or manage them, franchise them, whatever. But that's what I did for, and still do. But I've been doing it for my whole career. I was the senior officer of 2 hotel companies that were taken public on the New York Stock Exchange. But for me personally, what I do is I negotiate complicated contracts, and it was part of my daily life. And I tend to think about it in terms of, you know, my personal experience in that moment and the here and now. But it's not always about you, and it's not always about right now. 30 years ago, I decided after doing a lot of these different transactions that I wanted to have contracts that were fair for everybody. So I decided that if it need be, I was going to advocate for the other guy. If they didn't see that this was a risk that they were taking, I was going to step in and point it out. Well, I went to my lawyer and said this is what I was going to do, and he said, Jack, I can't represent you unless you go to the board of directors of your company and you get their permission. Well, I went to the board and I explained it to them, and to their credit, they agreed. And the first deal that came up was in New Orleans, Louisiana, to build a hotel in downtown New Orleans. And the guys that owned the land, they had both gone to law school. Oh my. Although they practiced real estate, they were lawyers. And this was 1982, so this is when the United States was going through a recession that they call the S&L, savings and loan crisis. So these guys were what you call asset rich and cash poor. So they had a lot of properties, but they weren't making money. And what they were used to doing, they get into a negotiation, and what they would do is they expected it to be kind of confrontational. You know, I'm going to advocate, and I was going to, you know, have to fight for what I did. Well, I told them that I wanted a fair agreement, and if necessary, I was going to point out where they had made a mistake, and I had invited them to do the same. They looked at me like I was a little touched in the brain. But anyway, after about 15 or 20 times, before they turned the page, I went to the provision and said, excuse me, guys, but we can't leave it like this, because this here ties to this agreement over there, which ties to that agreement over there, and I could actually hurt you in a way that was not fair, inappropriate. Now, I wouldn't do it, but it may go on to our attorneys, or maybe I leave the company. This agreement should not allow for you to be taken advantage of, and I want my lawyer to fix that. My lawyer looked back at me like, dude, seriously? And I'm like, change it. They did not do it as often as, for me, as I had hoped, but they very much appreciated this, and the negotiation by the end was more conversational than it was negotiation, adversarial. Well, they ended up building the hotel on time and on budget. 3 years later, we sold it for a $20 million profit. They got 10 million, I got 10, we got 10, not me, my side. So, which is the way the deal was supposed to work. And everything was fine. 8 years later, I go back to do another project in New Orleans, and I go to the same 2 guys. And anyway, we're under construction with the new hotel, and I go down to kind of approve the construction. And one of the guys was being awarded the New Orleans of the Year by the city council and the mayor that day that I was in town, and he asked me to come. Okay, cool, right, you know. So I was there. Well, this guy, this partner, he had donated 1,200 original pieces of art to a college-based museum there in New Orleans. It was affiliated with the Smithsonian Institute. For those of you, that's like the gold standard in the United States. He also went into the French Quarter in New Orleans, found an old courthouse, raised money, renovated it, gave it to the state, and the state of Louisiana moved the state Supreme Court to that building, and he gave it to him for free. These people who were awarding him this and kind of, giving their praise, one of them said, "Sir, once every 1,000 years, someone comes along and changes a people. You, sir, are that man." When it came time for him to give his acceptance, I was thinking to myself, brother, just say thank you and sit down, because there is nothing you can say to follow up on that. So he turns around to the audience where I'm sitting and he said, "Jack, would you please stand next to me?" By the way, if I get emotional and I do this, we call it man cry. Just trying to get control. Anyway, he asked me to come stand next to him. And he turned up to the elected officials and he said, "Thank you for all your kind words here today, but I have something that I think you need to know. I am not the one that you should be honoring here today. It is this man right here." And he pointed to me. And he went on to say some of the nicest things that anybody's ever said to me. It's easy for us to think that it's all about right now. It's all about you, but it's not. What was happening is that it took a while for it to sink in what was going on. You are doing this very thing with your life, with Foundations for Farming. You are changing people's lives. And it's not always the person that you think it is. It's someone else who's in the room maybe, or in the field. They hear, they see. And either they do it, or it changes them to the point where they get someone else to do it. But it is coming ultimately from you. It is not all about you, and it's not always about right now. You are in the process of changing the world, and you've been recognized by the UN and national government in Zimbabwe. The press isn't far behind. Pretty soon they're going to be writing about you. But it's just getting started, really. Think about it. People that you teach are going to teach others who are going to teach others. You're a part of, a global phenomenon. And I just wanted to thank you and to praise your great work and to encourage you to keep going. God bless you.